The sound hit me before I saw anything. A diesel engine pushed way past where it should be, tires screaming against concrete, the crash of metal shelving going over like a stack of dominoes. I spun around just in time to see a forklift blast through the outdoor sorting yard, clipping the corner of a steel rack unit. Freight exploded everywhere. One of my warehouse techs, Pete, been with us 9 years, dove sideways behind a pallet stack and hit the ground hard. The guy in the seat was laughing. I was already moving. I grabbed the frame of the machine with both hands, killed the engine, and yanked the key out of the ignition before the thing could roll another foot. Craig Carver, 31 years old, AirPods in both ears, a half-open beer can wedged against his thigh, looked up at me like I'd just interrupted his afternoon. "Craig, what are you doing?" He pulled one earbud out. Real slow, like he had all the time in the world. Moving some boxes. "Relax. You're not certified on this equipment," I said, "and you've been drinking. Get down." Right now, he looked at me the way guys like him always look at guys like me. Like I was the help who'd forgotten his place. "My dad owns this company," he said. "I can drive whatever I want. So back off, old man." That's the moment I knew. Not that things were bad. I already knew that. I knew it was over. One way or another, something was going to break here, and it wasn't going to be me. My name is Gary Holt. I'm 54 and I've spent the last 12 years as Fleet Safety Compliance Manager at Carver Freight LLC, based out of Columbus, Ohio. We run 180 trucks, about 200 employees. Main contracts with Home Depot and a handful of regional distributors, around $45 million a year in business. Not a glamorous operation. It's freight. You move it, you deliver it, you go home, you do it again. I'm not the guy with the corner office. Never wanted to be. What I have is a US safety license registered in my personal name. Every one of those 180 trucks rolls on my credentials. The drivers know me. The owner-operators trust me. The regulators deal with me directly, not the logo on the building, me. Phil Carver and I go back to when this company was 12 trucks running out of a rented lot off I-70. We built it together over the better part of a decade. He handled the business side. I kept the operation legal and safe. It worked because we trusted each other. Then Craig came back from Denver. He'd burned through 2 rounds of investor money trying to launch some logistics tech startup. The whole thing collapsed, and he showed up back in Columbus with nothing to show for it except 3 years of bad decisions and a sense of entitlement that hadn't shrunk one bit. Phil made him COO inside of 30 days. No interview, no transition period. Just handed his son a title and told everyone to fall in line. 2 weeks after that, Craig brought in his first cousin Donna Carver as HR manager. She was 27, had 0 HR experience, and had never worked a day in freight. She walked in on a Tuesday, and by Friday she was sitting in on disciplinary meetings. I saw the writing on the wall. I didn't say anything, but I started paying closer attention to the paperwork. That was 3 months before the forklift incident. Phil called me into the conference room that same afternoon. Craig was already in there, sitting with his arms crossed, looking like he'd already decided how the conversation was going to go. Phil sat at the head of the table. He didn't offer me coffee, didn't ask if Pete was okay. He slid a document across the table before I even sat down. Disciplinary agreement. Admission of insubordination and unprofessional conduct towards senior leadership. Sign it, Phil said. Apologize to Craig tomorrow morning in front of the team and we move past this. I looked at the paper, then at Phil, then at Craig, who was watching me the way a kid watches an ant before he steps on it. "And if I don't?" I asked. "Then I terminate you for cause," Phil said. "Harassment of a senior officer. I'll make sure it follows you through every DOT-regulated operation from here to the coast. You know how small this industry is, Gary." I sat there for a second, long enough to look Phil in the eye and try to find the guy I used to know. The one who pulled all-nighters with me during our first big contract push. The one who once told me over bad gas station coffee at 2 in the morning that he'd never let this company lose its integrity. That guy was gone. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I had an email sitting in my drafts. I'd written it 2 weeks ago when my lawyer flagged something in the subcontracting records, something involving Craig's access to my credentials. I hit send. "I'm not signing anything," I said, "and you won't be firing me, because I just resigned. Effective right now." Phil raised an eyebrow. "But before I walk out," I said, "there's something you need to know." Phil leaned back in his chair. Craig uncrossed his arms. That email I just sent went to the Department of Transportation. I said, "It's a formal notification triggering the owner fault termination clause on my personal safety license." Neither of them said anything, so I kept going. "Every truck you have on the road right now operates under credentials registered in my name. As of about 60 seconds ago, that license is suspended. Every one of your 180 trucks just became a ghost on the highway. No valid DOT authorization, no insurance coverage. You've got drivers out there right now who don't know they're running illegal." The room went very quiet. Craig looked at his father. Phil looked at me. His face had gone the color of old concrete. "You can't do that," Craig said. "I just did," I said. "Good luck sorting it out." I dropped my badge on the table, stood up, and walked out. Nobody stopped me. My phone started ringing before I reached the parking lot. Phil's legal team. I let it go to voicemail and kept walking. I drove home, made a pot of coffee, and sat at my kitchen table. I won't pretend I felt good about it. 12 years is a long time. I knew every driver on that roster by name. I knew which ones had kids starting college, which ones were putting away extra for retirement, which ones were running their second or third year clean after a rough patch. Those guys hadn't done anything wrong. They were just out there doing their jobs. But I also knew what I'd found in those subcontracting records. And I knew if I stayed, I'd be signing off on it with my silence. My lawyer, Roy Stanton, called around 3 in the afternoon. He'd been watching the DOT filing and was tracking the ripple effects in real time. "First truck just got pulled," he said. "Way station outside Dayton. State troopers ran the DOT code, got a red flag, impounded it on the spot. How many are out right now?" I asked. "Dispatch log shows 34 active runs," he said. It's going to be a bad night for Phil. He wasn't wrong. By 5 p.m., the insurance carrier had launched an emergency audit. What they found made the DOT situation look minor. Craig had been listed as acting fleet operations manager in my place, a man with 0 professional certifications, no safety training, and a DUI on his Colorado record that Phil had apparently decided not to mention when he handed his son the keys. The insurance provider canceled the policy the same evening, citing violation of risk management provisions. That's when the real damage started. Home Depot's compliance system is automated. The moment the insurance cancellation hit their vendor database, it flagged Carver Freight LLC for contract review. By 9 p.m. that night, Phil had an email in his inbox notifying him that their regional distribution contract, roughly $28 million of that $45 million annual revenue, was suspended pending investigation. 2 other regional clients followed within the hour. The trucks that Donna had dispatched after I left. She'd been pushing drivers past their regulated hours, trying to make up for the chaos. 3 of them got flagged for ELD violations before midnight. 1 driver was pulled over by a state trooper in Indiana and had his rig impounded right there on the shoulder of I-65. He called me from the side of the road, confused and exhausted, asking what was going on. I told him to sit tight and that I was going to fix it. I didn't sleep much that night. What Craig didn't know, what none of them knew, was what I'd set up 2 weeks earlier when Roy first flagged the subcontracting records. Here's what Roy had found. Craig had been accessing the company's fleet management system using my login credentials, not occasionally, regularly. He'd used my access to approve a $2.3 million subcontracting deal with a shell company called Ridgeline Cargo Solutions, LLC. Ridgeline had no trucks, no drivers, no operating authority. What it did have was a registered agent, Donna Carver. Wire fraud, federal. The money was being routed through Ridgeline back to a personal account Craig had set up 6 weeks after he came back to Columbus. He'd been doing it under my name, using my credentials, betting that if anyone ever looked, the trail would point to me. Roy and I had been building documentation quietly for 2 weeks, and I'd configured the fleet management system to do one specific thing if anyone attempted an unauthorized access override or tried to wipe the activity logs. Automatically forward the complete email chain and access records to every member of Carver Freight's board of directors. Craig tried to wipe the logs the night after I resigned. He triggered the system himself by 8 a.m. The next morning, every board member had the full picture sitting in their inbox, every access event, every approval, every dollar routed through Ridgeline, all of it time-stamped and user-logged under Craig's credentials. Faye Weston, the lead board director, called Roy before 9. She wasn't happy. I was on my second cup of coffee when Phil called. It was day 2. A little past midnight. His voice sounded like a man who hadn't slept and wasn't sure he was going to make it through the next 24 hours. All the authority was gone out of it. He just sounded old and tired and scared. Gary, long pause. I made a mistake. Craig and Donna have torn this place apart. The contracts are gone. The insurance is gone. I've got drivers stranded in 3 states. I don't know how to fix this without you. Another pause. Please come in. I'll sign whatever you want. Full reinstatement. New contract, whatever it takes. I sat there in the dark and didn't say anything for a while. Part of me, a bigger part than I'd like to admit, wanted to just say no. Let it burn. Phil had made his choice when he handed me that document and told me to apologize to his son. But I kept thinking about that driver on the shoulder of I-65, and Pete, who'd hit the ground hard in the sorting yard, and the 30-some other drivers out there who had nothing to do with any of this. I'll come in tomorrow morning, I said. I should have known better. I pulled into the Carver freight lot at 8:15 the next morning. The yard was quiet in a way it never usually was. A few trucks sitting idle that should have been out on runs 2 hours ago. Nobody moving freight. A couple of guys standing near the dock doors with their hands in their pockets, not really doing anything, just waiting to find out if they still had jobs. I walked through the front entrance and got about 10 steps into the lobby. 2 police officers stepped out from around the corner of the reception desk. Not moving fast, just planting themselves between me and the rest of the building. I stopped. Craig came down the stairs from the mezzanine level. Slow, deliberate, like he'd been rehearsing the walk. He had his phone in one hand and a look on his face I hadn't seen before, not the lazy smirk from the forklift, something colder than that. Phil came down behind him and stopped on the 3rd step. He didn't make eye contact with me. You actually showed up, Craig said. I wasn't sure you'd be dumb enough. I didn't say anything. We filed a complaint with the county sheriff's office last night, he said. Unauthorized access to company systems, theft of proprietary data, sabotage of fleet operations. There's a federal civil suit being filed this morning. He glanced at the officers. He's the one. I felt the handcuffs close around my wrists, right there in the middle of the lobby. The receptionist looked away. Phil still hadn't looked at me. Donna was standing near the far wall with a folder tucked under her arm. She watched the whole thing without expression, the way you watch something you planned. Craig held up his phone and took a photo. Thanks for making this easy, he said. The interrogation room at the county station was a standard setup. Fluorescent lights, a table bolted to the floor, chairs that were designed to be uncomfortable. Craig's private attorney, a guy named Fowler, who looked like he charged $600 an hour and knew it, sat across from me with a folder of documents. Forged access logs showing I'd wiped fleet management data the night I resigned. Fabricated records claiming I'd exported client contact lists to a personal drive. A signed statement from Donna saying she'd witnessed me threatening Craig in the sorting yard. 3 pages of it, all clean and organized and completely made up. The investigator was going through it methodically. I let him finish. I'd like to make a statement, I said, and I have evidence to submit. There's a USB drive in my front shirt pocket. The officer retrieved it and plugged it into the room's terminal. Fowler looked unbothered. Craig's attorneys had clearly told him this was a formality. He probably figured I had some personnel records or maybe a copy of my employment contract. The screen came up. It was the ELD black box data, every single access event logged in the fleet management system for the past 45 days. Every login, every approval. Every document signed off under my credentials, with one key detail, the session metadata. IP addresses, device IDs, timestamps down to the second. None of those sessions had originated from my computer, my phone, or my home network. Every single one had come from Craig's office terminal and Craig's personal laptop, including the session 3 nights ago where someone had logged in under my credentials and attempted to delete the access history. That attempt had failed. I'd set the archive to read only with a secondary cloud backup, and it had triggered the automatic forward to the board. The investigator leaned forward. There's a second folder on that drive, I said. Email chain. 41 messages between Craig's personal account and the registered agent for Ridgeline Cargo Solutions, LLC. Subcontracting approvals, payment routing instructions, and 2 internal memos where Craig explicitly discusses using my login to authorize the transfers so that, and I'm quoting here, the paper trail lands on Holt if anyone starts asking questions. Fowler stopped writing. The full chain was forwarded to Carver Freight's board of directors at 2:17 a.m. 2 nights ago, I said, automatically. Craig triggered it himself when he tried to wipe the logs. The door opened. Roy Stanton walked in. He wasn't alone. He had a woman with him I recognized from the quarterly board meetings, Faye Weston. She set a document on the table in front of the investigator without sitting down. I represent 3 members of Carver Freight's board of directors, Roy said. That's an emergency resolution signed this morning, terminating Craig Carver and Donna Carver for cause wire fraud, misuse of company systems, and filing a false police report. It also authorizes Gary Holt to restore the company's .safety license and resume fleet operations immediately. He set a second document next to the first. And that's a formal referral to the FBI field office in Columbus for investigation of federal wire fraud. The board filed it an hour ago. Fowler closed his folder and looked at Craig's chair as if he was already calculating his exit. The investigator looked at me, then at the screen, then at Faye. He picked up his pen and wrote something at the top of his notepad. It took another 90 minutes to get through the paperwork. Roy stayed with me the whole time. Faye made 2 phone calls in the hallway and came back looking like someone who had just cleaned up a mess she hadn't made and wasn't happy about it. When they finally walked me out, the afternoon light hit me like I'd been underground for a week. Roy shook my hand outside the entrance. "Board wants to talk to you about next steps," he said. "I know," I said. "Give me a few minutes." I stood there in the parking lot for a little while, just breathing, thinking about Phil on that staircase, not able to look at me. 12 years. You think you know someone. Then I got in my truck and drove back to the yard. Faye Weston was waiting for me in Phil's office when I got back. Phil wasn't there, neither was Craig. The personal items that had been on the desk that morning, the framed photos, the Columbus Clippers bobblehead Phil had kept there for years. The Little League trophy from when Craig was 8 were already gone. Someone had cleared them out fast. Faye stood up when I walked in. She's in her mid-50s, been on the board since year 4 of the company. Sharp. No nonsense. The kind of person who doesn't say more than she needs to. "We'd like you to take over as CEO," she said. Effective immediately. I looked around the office for a second, took it in. "No," I said. She didn't look surprised exactly, but she waited. "I'm not a CEO," I said. "I never wanted to be one. What I want is to make sure those drivers out there have a legal operation to come back to tomorrow morning. Get someone from inside, someone the team already trusts into the GM role. I'll stay on as safety director. New contract, independent reporting line to the board, and nobody touches my licensing authority without my sign-off." Faye was quiet for a moment. "That's what you want, after all of this." "That's what I want," I said. She nodded once. "Done." We spent the next 2 hours on the phone with the DOT regional office, the insurance carrier, and 3 different attorneys. By 4 p.m., the safety license was reinstated. By 5, the insurance was active again. Roy sent confirmation emails to Home Depot's compliance team and the 2 regional distributors. It would take time to rebuild those relationships. Home Depot put us on a 90-day probationary contract to start, but the trucks could roll again. I walked down to the dispatch center, picked up the radio handset, and keyed it open. "Attention all units. This is Gary Holt. The DOT license is reinstated and insurance is active. You are clear to roll. Drive safe out there." I set the handset down. For a second, nothing. Then the radio crackled back to life. One voice, then another, then half a dozen at once. A few guys just said my name. One of the long-haul drivers, a guy named Earl who'd been with us since year 2, came on and said, "Copy that, Gary. Good to hear your voice." That was it. That was enough. Pete found me about 20 minutes later out by the dock doors. He had his hard hat in his hand and looked like he hadn't slept in 2 days, which he probably hadn't. "You doing okay?" I asked him. He shrugged. "Shoulders a little banged up from the fall. Nothing serious." He paused. "Thought we were done, Gary. Thought that was it." "I know," I said. "Me too for a minute." He nodded and put his hard hat back on and went back to work. That was the whole conversation. But that's Pete. He doesn't need a lot of words. Neither do I. Here's what happened to the rest of them. Phil ended up selling his controlling stake in the company to cover the DOT penalties and the legal fees from the board's civil action. It wasn't enough. He had to sell the house too, the big one out in Dublin he'd bought when the company hit its first $10 million year. Last I heard he was consulting for a small regional carrier out of Cincinnati, making a fraction of what he used to make. I don't know if he ever figured out that Craig had been setting me up to take the fall from the beginning. Maybe he did. Maybe he told himself a story where that wasn't true. Craig is working through a federal wire fraud case. His attorney negotiated it down from the original charges, but he's still looking at real consequences, fines, probation, and a permanent bar from holding any position with DOT-regulated authority. He's 31 years old, and his name is flagged in every major freight network database in the country. That's going to follow him a long time. Donna lost her HR credentials and got blacklisted across the industry inside of a month. Turns out when you file a false witness statement in a federal investigation, people find out about it. The company itself survived. Took about 6 months to get the contracts fully restored and another year before things felt stable again, but the drivers kept their jobs. That's the part that mattered. I still come in every morning at 6:30. I still do my own pre-trip inspections. I still know every driver on the roster by name. Nothing about that changed. What did change is that I cleaned out my old desk in the compliance office and found my badge at the bottom of the drawer, the one I dropped on the conference room table the day I resigned. I don't wear it pinned to my vest anymore. I keep it on my desk where I can see it when I sit down in the morning. It's not a trophy. It's just a reminder. 12 years of showing up, doing the work right, building something that ran because people trusted you. That's not nothing. It doesn't disappear because somebody decided they could use it against you. It's still yours. If you've worked somewhere long enough that the place only runs because of what you know and what you've built, you already understand what I'm talking about. They count on you right up until the moment they decide you're inconvenient. Then they act like it was always that way. Don't sign the paper. Don't apologize for doing your job right. The leverage you have isn't arrogance, it's the truth, and when the time comes, let the truth do the work. I'm Gary Holt, and that's exactly what I did. If this story hit close to home, drop a comment below. I read every one of them. And if you know someone who's been put in a corner like this, share it with them. Sometimes it helps just to know you're not the only one.